shutting down. No. Attempting shutdown. It's not. It's not shutting down. It's not.
Good morning, and welcome to the Black Mesa Transit System.
Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Slipping Out. In this one we'll be taking a look for behind the scenes and out of bounds secrets on the awesome Half-Life. Just to point out, I was mainly sticking to the original version, but also the source version in some parts to create this episode, and we'll be comparing some of the crazy things hidden outside the maps, the weapons, and also the scenes, including how teleporting works, as you may never have seen them before. There's a lot to cover in this one, and it's been a long time coming, so let's get slipping out of Half-Life.
Hello and welcome to the Black Mesa Hazard Course, where you will be trained in the use of the hazardous environment suit.
Talking of the hazard suit, let's take a look at the suit we pick up and then the suit we see on Gordon's model from a third-person view. You may spot that the suit we never normally see has Valve written on the back, and I'm not sure why they didn't use this for the suits we collect, but opted for a more metallic-looking texture. Did you ever wonder if the characters we can spot during the opening transit ride through the facility were actually doing anything, or even just maybe having a chat? Of course, normally we wouldn't be able to get close enough to hear them, but if we go over, they are scripted to chat to each other, even if it is quite random sometimes.
You think this is the right way out?
Shut up! Fascinating. I never suspected such things could be.
I was always curious to find out if there was anything behind this door the security guard was banging on. Well, there isn't, but that's not to say we can't find anything outside of these areas. By going underneath the map or out of bounds in practically every section of this transit journey, we can find these hidden rooms or boxes, and these can be used for various jobs, such as holding boxes for objects before they get teleported into the maps. And during Half-Life, there certainly is no shortage of these to be found out of bounds. They can be found all over, some being a bit more wacky than others, mind you. Take for instance this box that has hundreds of small images of Gabe Newell's face as its texture. Can you imagine having to wait inside this thing before being spawned into life? Eesh, scary thought. Now I wanted to give you an example of what this box actually does, so by going into the source version we can see it's clearly a different texture, but by flying into it we get teleported above this wooden crate. Yep. The very same wooden crate as the Hound Eye teleports to, and here it is inside Gabe's holding box. During one of the most memorable sequences of my gaming history, when the experiment goes horribly wrong, we get teleported to some strange alien worlds. Pretty creepy stuff, but where are these places we visit? Well, just like the out of bounds rooms or boxes, these places can be found out of bounds too, and these can also be found out here because they are in the same loading sector, so we don't have any break in immersion by having a loading screen every 5 seconds. If you're wondering what these green flashing boxes are, then we'll be taking a more detailed look at how these work later on in the video. I was interested to find out what happens inside the test lab when Gordon teleports to the other sections of the map. Just in case you are too, then here it is. We're now going to take a look at more general behind the scenes things that you may be interested in, like for instance, are these scientists always in the lift before falling to their doom, and what happens to them afterwards? Well, as you can see, they are indeed inside the lift, although floating slightly above the floor. Not that that matters, in fact this may have been done intentionally to stop them clipping through the floor as the lift falls. You may also have just noticed that a broken model of the lift is actually hidden underneath the lift shaft, which rises above the ground, and the original lift, still intact, falls beneath. What about the scientist that's pulled into the vents? Well, to be honest, there's not too much to see here. He simply disappears. Strange that later in the game the same thing happens, yet the models seem to slowly fade out rather than instantly disappear. What about this chap who pops his head out of the garbage can? How this is done is developer ingenuity at its best. Underneath him, he simply has a small lift which moves him up and down.
Get it off me! Get it out! Get it out!
I'm not sure if anyone agrees, but these tentacles, except for the Nihilynth, were probably the most frustrating enemy in the game. However, I couldn't help but be impressed by how they were seemingly attracted to noise, even if I did die many times trying to get past them. One of the more scripted sequences during the game is when we enter the room at the end of the mission Apprehension. The lights go out and we hear some grunts knock out Gordon. There's nothing to see inside the room when this happens, but I did always want to look around the corridor to see where we were whilst being dragged through it. I don't think this has ever been achieved before, as the standard built-in no-clip for the game doesn't work during this scene. However, I went to some extra effort and managed to capture this footage for you guys. Cool to see that it's the corridor surround that is moving past the player and the grunts whilst the floor remains in one position, a technique we've certainly seen before during episodes of Slipping Out, but for a game back in 1998, pretty impressive all the same.
Where are we taking this Freeman guy? Upside for questioning. What the hell for? We got him. Let's kill him now. And if they find the body? Body? What body?
Alright, we're going to be moving on to skyboxes now, which all of the outside areas during the game use. So if we fly way over into the distance outside of the map, check it out, we can find a smaller version of what we can see surrounding the map. In fact, this is usually around 1/16 the size of what we would normally see whilst looking out. Now there are better and much more detailed examples of this, for instance on the mission Surface Tension. Believe it or not, all of the river and the surrounding mountains are part of the skybox used on this map. In fact, you may be shocked at how little of the actual map there is, which you're about to see soon. I'll leave it up to your opinions to which has the better, more realistic looking skybox, Half-Life or Half-Life Source. We'll compare both in just a moment, but what happens here is the original mini version, usually found at coordinate 000 in the 3D game world, is projected around the main map whilst we're stood inside of it. And believe it or not, this skybox method is certainly not that rare to find in games of this age. I have found other games using this method, including Call of Duty games. I always wondered what the jet looked like close up and where it came from too, so here it is hiding just out of bounds, and it's triggered at a certain point as we crawl through the pipe. At this point I just wanted to do a quick comparison of character models. Now bear in mind the source version was supposedly an improvement on graphics, and whilst that may be true in some subtle areas, the character models themselves are hideous in my opinion. Take for instance this security guard. What the hell has happened to him? He genuinely looks about 600 years old. However, in both versions the assassins do have eyes hidden behind their goggles, something we wouldn't normally get to see. And what about the mysterious G-Man? Well, if we compare the two different versions, for some strange reason, in the newer source version, inside his briefcase he has what seems like a mini computer with his picture on the screen. Again, this is something that I don't believe we can ever see. Something else you may never have seen from different perspectives are the weapons. Now I'm not talking about just seeing them from the third person view, as the models in the third person view are actually different to how they are in the first person view. A good example of this is how Freeman is holding the Snark, and also the glue-on gun certainly doesn't have a backpack when in first person. Even the crowbar is held differently. So what do they look like? Well, from the back left, not too much difference, but if we take a look from the front of the weapon, there is a huge difference. In fact, as you can see, most of the weapon is missing, and well, why not? It doesn't need to be there, as we can't see it anyway. And here are some of the other weapons that you may be interested in seeing from this angle. Not entirely sure what's going on with Freeman's left hand whilst holding the rocket launcher. Alright, I hope you're enjoying the show so far. We're going to be taking a look at teleporting and how it works in just a moment, but first of all I wanted to show the rocket launch scene in a little more detail. So again, just outside the map, and in fact above the map too, we can find more hidden boxes, and the one outside the map has the rocket contained within it. So when we press the launch button, the rocket is teleported from this box to below the silo doors and then takes flight, before of course returning to here. It always kind of frustrated me that I couldn't really see much of what was going on, but I guess there were restrictions back then on what could be done, so here it is from the outside. So here it is, what happens when we teleport? Well, you may remember from earlier in the video, there were some flashing green boxes outside the map, and this is exactly what we have here, except more of them, because there are more teleporters that we can go inside in this map, including a little red one you can just about see in the background. So I'm now going to try and demonstrate what happens in a third-person view. If you have played Half-Life, you'll know that when we teleport, there's a very quick green flash that covers the screen, and that's because we enter these boxes for a split second and then re-enter the map at the appropriate coordinates. Now here it is from outside the map, so keep your eyes peeled on the circled box as it all happens pretty quickly. Pretty awesome stuff. Last but not least, during the final scenes whilst G-Man is talking to us, we again visit various places, and the only thing I really wanted to do with this was give you a fully zoomed out shot so you get a good idea of where all the sections of map are in comparison to each other. Bear in mind that the skyboxes for each individual section are missing whilst we're zoomed out this far. So there we go, that is it for this episode of Slipping Out. I am currently working on future episodes of Slipping Out, such as Assassin's Creed and Mafia, as well as certain other titles which I'm keeping under wraps for now. But to stay in touch, and if you want to find out more about the show, you can join me on the platforms listed in the description. Huge thank you to everyone keeping the show going with your kind membership donations. All the money from those goes back into running the show, whether it be buying the games or the software, so huge thank you again. Alright, that is it. Until the next time, as always, take care everyone.
It appears the containment system has completely failed.